Hi, this is Dave. In this video, I'm going to show you how I built a live avatar using the HeyGen live avatar feature. I have it hosted in AWS using Lambda function, and then I put it on my WordPress website using some HTML code. And the nice thing about this is it runs 24/7. It costs around $1 to $2 a month, and it could probably take you about 30 minutes to set up. Let's take a look. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and start this. Once you go to the page, like I said, it starts warming up the Lambda function. So now I'll go ahead and hit start conversation.
Hey, I'm your AI assistant from Digital 6 Technologies. We do AI consulting, cloud architecture, and compliance solutions, plus our new live avatar service. What's up?
Hey, do you do like live avatars?
Yes, we offer live avatar services, which are designed to enhance customer engagement by providing interactive virtual representatives for your business. These avatars can assist in customer service, marketing, and more, creating a unique experience for your clients. If you're interested, I can help you explore how this could benefit your business. Just click the Get Your AI Solution button below.
Great. What about cloud security consulting?
We provide comprehensive cloud compliance and security services to ensure your cloud infrastructure is secure and meets regulatory requirements. Our expertise includes assessing vulnerabilities, implementing best practices, and ensuring compliance with standards like CMMC. If you'd like to discuss how we can enhance your cloud security, feel free to click the Get Your AI Solution button below.
What can you tell me about the owner?
David Frass, the founder of Digital 6 Technologies, is an AWS certified solutions architect and a CMMC registered practitioner with over 15 years of experience in cloud technology. He holds an engineering degree from Kansas State.
Okay, so you get the picture there. So, this is definitely something that this is an HTML page. I'll show you how I did this here in a second, but it's a good demo, but I just want to show you real quick what I have here. So, you start the conversation. I even put the status in here. But, and then I put, exactly what I have, what you can do here with this live avatar. So you can, add this in here. You can add, and then I kind of explain how it works, what you can ask and so on. And I probably should put this maybe up a little bit higher so you can see that. But it starts the conversation. Once you go to this page, it starts because, of course, if they're coming to this page, they're going to want to use the live avatar. Now, if you're putting it somewhere else, you probably wouldn't want to start up a Lambda function unless you know for sure that they're going to use it. Also, I'm going to talk about how you can have down here in the bottom corner where I'm at right here, you could do like a little widget as well. And of course, you would do the same thing. If I click on the widget, then it automatically starts up the Lambda function as well, warms it up and so on. So you could do that as well. And I'll show you that. But you can see how I started the conversation. You can end the conversation. It did a good job with the questions. And of course, I've got my call to action, get your AI solution as well, which kind of goes to another page. And then I just listed information here. So pretty nice how this works so far. One thing I also want to mention here is that if you notice how I talked about warming up the Lambda function. I didn't do that before, and let's reset this one more time. And what happened is that when I first did this, and it even happened on my PC when I tested it there, but when you hit the start conversation, what happened is that the audio and the video were not synced. And so a lot of times what happened was the video was starting and then the audio would go really quick to sync up, and it was really bad at first. And so that's why I added in, and I'll show you in the code where we kind of get everything set up when you come to this page. So now it starts right on time. So if you look here, when you hit to start the conversation,
Hey, I'm your AI assistant from Digital 6 Technologies.
so you can see how
we focus on AI
really
consulting,
nice.
cloud
It does a really
architecture,
good
and
job
compliance
of going
solutions.
right away. And it was really choppy at first, and so it took me a little while to get it set up and get it exactly how I wanted it. But now, there's a little bit of pause when you hit the start conversation. It was a little bit faster before, but I figured just that little pause and syncing everything together to get everything ready to go is so much better than having it, being off at the very beginning. So anyway, that's what I did. I just wanted to point that out as well.
Hey there, I'm Dave, founder of Digital 6 Technologies. I help businesses use AI in the cloud to work smarter, run smoother, and actually make technology feel simple again. Over the years, I've worked with companies of all sizes, helping them automate repetitive tasks, secure their cloud environments, and design intelligent systems that save time and money. That might mean building a custom AI chatbot, setting up voice automation for customer calls, or creating a secure, compliant cloud setup that just works. At Digital 6, we call this intelligence-driven architecture, because it's not just about using AI, it's about building systems that think and adapt with your business. So if you've been curious about what AI could do for your company, or if you just want to talk through an idea, hit the link in the description and set up a free consultation. Let's explore how we can make AI and automation actually work for you. Thanks.
Okay, now that you saw the demo, basically how I set this up, and we'll go into more detail on this, is but I went to HeyGen and set up the live avatar account there. I also have an AWS account which I use, and you can of course set up a free one as well. But like I mentioned, the cost is very minimal, and I'll go into more detail on that. So it really is something that you should use, and I'll talk about why you should use AWS. I have a WordPress website that I put this on, and of course you can put this on anything. It's basically I have HTML code, and then I use an HTML editor to kind of put that code in there. But like I said, you can put this anywhere. And then I like to test this on my local PC first. So I used Node.js to check it out first, ran it on my local PC. Then I installed the AWS CLI editor, IED editor, and then pushed everything up into AWS. And so basically how this kind of whole architecture works is that, I have everything in my browser here, and then I have in WordPress. And then basically once you hit the start conversation, that goes and makes a call to the API gateway, which I'll go into more detail here. And then once you do that, then it goes to the Lambda function. And then from the Lambda function, it goes to the HeyGen API, which they give you. And then from there, then it kind of starts the conversation between HeyGen and the browser. So then it's going back and forth. That's basically how it works, and I'll go into more detail from there. So let's go ahead and take a look at HeyGen and how it's all set up there. Okay, so here I am in the app liveavatar.com. So it's a little different than the HeyGen area. You have to actually go to Live Avatar. And this is where you can see all the different avatars. And so you can see there's several different ones. Here's the one that I used here. Actually, I think I used her with the background right here. But when I did the widget on my WordPress site, I used this person here. So this one without the background here. So I actually cut her off, or actually I may have used one of these. I can't remember which ones, but you can play with this and see which one works best. But on a full website or full page, these seem to work out pretty well. And you can kind of see all the different ideas that you can do here with doctors. Heck, you even got Santa Claus. And now, you can make this live. Santa, you can set in the context, which I'll show you. You can say, hey, what's your name? And then it can say your name, and then boom, it can ask questions and kind of go from there. So that's a nice thing about this. And you can see there's all different ones here with backgrounds or no backgrounds and so on. So that's kind of how it goes. And you can kind of pick out your avatar. You just copy the ID, and I'll show you in the code where you would need this, right? Then you can set up your context. And so this is what I did. This is one you just listened to right here. And this is kind of where it goes right here. And you can say, hi, I'm a digital assistant. What brings you here today? I think she even said, what's up in our deal. And then here's the full prompt. It's basically about Digital 6. There's really not much here. And she does a pretty good job of describing everything here. But, so this is in here. You can add a lot more in this if you want. And of course, if you're doing any kind of training, you can kind of go from there. But this is kind of what I put in here for now. So this is where you put your context. And of course, you can add more in here as well. And then when you go to the developers, you've got your API documentation, which is where I kind of grabbed it and used it here. You can generate your API keys right here as well. And then you can work on your embedding code if you have anything you want to embed, and then usage. So you can actually kind of go through here and use it, embed it anywhere you want right now without even doing any kind of coding. And you can see here, this is kind of all the times that I've used it and so on. And then I had to pay for the full, I think it's a $90, $90, I can't remember how much it is for the credits. What happened was you can see here, this is credits or the timestamps of how many sessions you have. And for some reason, my session got stuck on the free one, and it took me forever. I had trouble with support and so on. So I just went ahead and paid for the $90 one just to get, so I can get more credits and so on. So, and hey, if you're going to sell this to your clients, then, $90 is really nothing. So that's definitely worth it if you can get more usage. So this is kind of what I was using here. So, and you can see here, I think the one I just did just a minute ago used two credits. Before I was using forks, I had a longer conversation with it as well. So you can kind of see here the different conversations and how it goes and how many credits you use. So anyway, this is kind of what we do here. You can change the voices here. I was using the default voice for this. So that's something that you can use, but you can change. You can use different ones here, and I'll just show you the voice, the avatars, IDs, and so on, and the API keys and how that all worked. But I just wanted to show you here, this is kind of how this all works and so on. And you can even go in there and you can kind of look at them, and then you can kind of ask any kind of questions here. See, like right in here, this Santa Claus is trained on my digital 6. Right now, it's going to ask questions about, it's going to answer questions and give you digital 6 answers, right? But you can go in there and, of course, change it. You can train it for a Santa one if you want, and then kind of go from there. And then here are the languages you can ask. There's quite a few languages that it'll do it in. So there's quite a few options that you can do here, and come up with a lot of different ways to make money if you want to, if that's what you want to do. Or if you're looking for something like you want to do some training or sales training or anything like that, you can set that up here, fitness training and so on. The possibilities are endless. Okay, so I have this documentation, and this will also be in my GitHub here, so you can go through all this stuff here as well. And basically what this whole document is I have a YouTube tutorial guide, so you'll know that I'm using this guide to kind of go through everything that I'm doing here. But let me just go over the flow again one more time, and then I'll show you a diagram of this. But basically the user clicks on the website like I showed you. The website calls the API gateway, right? So this is where we have the deal, and I'll show you this in AWS. And this is kind of what starts the session. And then from there, the API gateway triggers the Lambda function, right? And so this is, of course, serverless. You're only paying for what you use. Then the Lambda calls the HeyGen API, and with the API key that we have in there, the avatar ID, and then, of course, the context ID. So it knows, so you can have several different, knowledge bases that you want to use or whatever that may be, context. So you can put that in there, and of course, you can change your avatar IDs. Like I said, I used the default voice, but you can change that as well. And then HeyGen returns a session token, right, which is valid up to 1 hour. And then Lambda returns a token through the API gateway. So now it goes back to your website, right? And then from your website, it initializes the live avatar SDK. And then, of course, now you're kind of having a conversation back and forth. And all the video streams directly between the browser and HeyGen. So you basically you go to AWS, set it up, you have the token, what you want, everything else, you give that to HeyGen. And then HeyGen then goes and then starts the conversation from there. So let me kind of show you kind of a better image of this, of how this works here. So you have the browser, click start, you go to the WordPress part of it, starts the session with the AWS API Gateway, which I'll talk about more in detail. But using the API is the way to go. You could bypass this, but you definitely might as well take advantage of this low cost and secure way, and several ways to manage the tokens and so on, and the calls. But from there, then it goes to the Lambda function. Lambda function then goes to the HeyGen with the API token that you have, and then it returns it back to the Lambda function, and then it returns it back through the API gateway back to the WordPress site. And then from here, now it goes back and forth. And this is like when you're talking to it, you're going back in here with the HeyGen servers and so on. So that's basically how this whole works. I tried, I was messing around with, I think I tried doing this in Gemini to see if it could come up with some stuff, and actually did a pretty good job. This is all created by AI. You can see here that users, ADN servers kind of messed up a little bit, a few places, steps 8 and 9. So I was just trying out the new diagram for Gemini, but you can kind of see it here as well, right? You got the user, AWS, triggers the Lambda function, and then through the API gateway, here's your Lambda. So you can see it messed it up here too. And then you got your HeyGen services, right? And then it gets the SDK. And then from there, you start the conversation back and forth. So this is kind of giving you a good diagram of how this all works. Okay, so let's take a look at the code here. So I've logged in right now. So I'm gonna go in here and just look at this. I really don't manage my WordPress sites much, but I'll just go into this editor right here. So we're in here right now, and you can see what I've done is I've just kind of taken this, I used the raw HTML from this editor that I'm using, and I just put everything in here right now. So this kind of just shows you the simple HTML code that's running on here. And you can kind of go in here, if you know HTML, you can kind of breeze through here. I just want to show you just kind of how everything's set up in here. And what I want to do is I want to kind of go in here and kind of find, kind of what we're doing here. So let's go ahead and check out. So you can see here, this is my warm up. So what I want to do is kind of show you the warm up here. So you can see I'm doing like a sync, and I'm doing a warm up of the Lambda function right here. And this is kind of what we talked about. Warm up the Lambda first. So as soon as the page loads, it's loading up the Lambda, and you can see here's the code right here for that. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this part of it right here. Okay, and now what we'll do is we'll look at now, like I talked about, the stream, the synchronization between the audio and the video were kind of messed up. So I kind of got that set up here as well. So let me kind of go in here and see, I think we called it warming. Yep, so this is the kind of the same thing here. So the warming overlay here, this is kind of like for setup listening before starting. And so we did all this to make sure that we were kind of syncing up the audio and the video of the session before it starts. So this is kind of what this was used for as well. And then we also did a kind of a warm-up Lambda. Let's look here. So we kind of talked about this some more. Yep, and then we did a warm-up Lambda. This is kind of like we talked about here. So we have some more of the Lambda functions. You can kind of see how all this works. And then also what we did when we loaded the page, we kind of did that as well. I think that was under the, let's see, I think we did meta. Let's go in here. And then metadata, we're kind of loading all that up as well. So I think up here, we did the same thing. See if we can find it right here. Yep, so preload metadata. So we're kind of getting everything set up here. So once again, this is the kind of the way, once the page is loaded up, it gets everything going, and then we go from there. And then you can kind of see here, this is kind of where everything is. This is kind of where we get the HeyGen Avatar SDK and how we get everything set up. This is more of HTML stuff here, but this is kind of, you can kind of see how we kind of the API start session with the backend URL. And you can see how the sessions changed. And then basically what it's working on is, definitely checks. I had definitely a lot of error codes. The nice thing about the error codes that I was getting is I could go into CloudWatch and find the errors and then kind of work through what's going on. Sometimes I had to pull in AI to kind of help me out with this. And then of course, here's your microphone, making sure the microphone's set up. But you can, and you also want to make sure the end of the session as well. I didn't do that. I think that was part of the reason why when I didn't have the end of the session, I forgot to put that in there. We kind of kept the session open, so it was kind of a pain in the butt as well. But now everything is in there, so you can kind of get everything you need here. So this will be on my GitHub, so you can kind of go through the HTML. But I just wanted to kind of show you what we did to kind of optimize the audio and the video, syncing everything together. And then from there, then you can start the session. And then everything kind of goes from there, and you're talking with the HeyGen SDK back and forth. And then, like I said, this could be done. Here's the other thing too: is there's a code edit snippet. So if you kind of wanted to do like a kind of one on the right side, you could do something like that as well. And you can kind of, what I did is edit snippet code, and then I have this set up as a widget, right? And then by doing that, you can set this up as a widget, and then have it go into you can set a widget on the side here. So what you can do is you can activate this, right? Activate it, and I have, this is old code here, so I need to update this code because I want to do a full page instead. And then you hit update, and then what you could do is you go, let's go take a look at this here, and should be right over here on this side. Yep. So you can see here that you can click on this, and then so this would bring up the avatar. And so what I did is I had the lady right here on this section right here. And you can hit the start conversation and so on, but it should error out, yeah. So because I need to update the code here, but anyway, this is what you could do here as well. And this was using the whatever it was called, the code snippets. So usually I have my WordPress developers do this for you, so I'm not up to speed completely on this stuff, but this is kind of how this would all work, and it's easy to do. So if you wanted to use a widget, you could do that too, or you could use the HTML and do the full page as well. Okay, so now we are in the Lambda function, and the Lambda function is actually pretty simple to do, but you can see here I've got my API keys. Here's the avatar ID. You would put that in as well. Your context ID, right? That's really your knowledge base of what you've set up. The voice ID, which I just left as default, and the language, of course, is English. And then here's your HTTPS request that we have going on here. Basically, what we do is we're kind of working on creating the live session. We're going to send all this information to HeyGen and along with the voice IDs, and then we kind of put in our live API live avatar information, and then we start our sessions. This path, this was tough to get. at first, try to get all this working as well. So this is kind of what you want to make sure you're using, and then you send your API key, right? Then of course we just have our error if something goes wrong, and then here's our cores, making sure that it's just for digital 6. You kind of want to make sure you set this up so nobody else can kind of take control of your avatar and put it somewhere else. And so I have this on my site right here, and then of course you have, making sure that you everything works, getting your 200 error code or status code back. And then of course, then from here, you're kind of setting up the whole event process. So you can see here, there's really not much that you do because HeyGen's really kind of taking care of it itself. You're kind of just setting up everything, setting up the difference between your website and HeyGen, kind of setting up the bridge there. And then after that, then you're handing that off to HeyGen, and then HeyGen just goes directly to your website. But you can kind of see how the event setting this up here, how it works, and then how you make sure it works with your website, and then you're kind of good to go. Now, once if you've seen any of my other ones, I love using this Lambda function, because if you have any errors, you can monitor, which is perfect. You can, I mean, this is a no-brainer to use something like this. You can kind of monitor the usage here as well. And then if you have any problems, you can go to CloudWatch. You can actually go to CloudWatch logs here. But when you're setting this up, you can see here, they can see all of your times that you used it, right? And so you can go here, and I had some errors that I had to deal with, and I had AI kind of help me out with some of these errors because I couldn't figure out exactly what was going on. But you can see here that once you get things going, you can see how successful they are, what you're sending, and so on. And of course, this is kind of nice because what I did with my, I was using the Kiro, Kiro deal to build all this, and so I really never even came in here to look. For the most part, I was able to just pull the Lambda functions, or the CloudWatch error stuff into my PC to kind of look and see what was going on here. But you can kind of see how what's going on. If there's any errors, they'll definitely show right in here. So that's the nice thing about it too, is that you can see in CloudWatch, low cost to manage all the logging part of it. But having it done somewhere else, you really don't get all these kind of features and benefits of doing this. So that's what I like about this, is that when I use the Lambda functions, which is kind of equivalent to anything else like make or Zapier or N8N, you can use a Lambda function instead. And then of course you can kind of look at, you can test it, but you can also look at any kind of other issues that you might have with monitoring, and then of course looking at any errors. And then you can also test, making sure that everything's doing that you want it to do. Okay, so that's what I just wanted to look at, is just look at the Lambda functions, the Lambda function, how it works, how simple the code is, and then how you can kind of check and make sure everything's working correctly in CloudWatch, which is connected to your Lambda function. Okay, so now what I'm here is API Gateway, and I just kind of show you why we want to use this and how I used it. But there's a lot of clients that I come across that do not use API Gateway, and it's the first thing I do is get them to use it. There's so many advantages. There's plenty of courses you could watch. I could talk about it for about an hour on why you should use it, and the advantages and the security and everything else, but I'll save that for another time. And like I said here, you could not use API Gateway in this, and you can just do a direct API with HeyGen and so on. But I'm running it through the gateway here. So here is my API right here. I'm going to API that I have in here. I've got the resources. You can see here I've got options and posts. So basically, the first thing it's going to do is the browser's going to call and check the options, see what the security settings are, the cores and so on, and then you got the post, and that's basically how this is going to work. So you can see here that we've got everything set up in here, how it goes through here, goes to the Lambda, and then comes back, and we can look here at our stages, at our production, and we can look at what we have, the API start session, which I've shown in the Lambda and everything else where it says the start session. And you can see our options here and the URL that we use to call this, and then same with the post, right? So it's all in here. And then you can see also that we go into our production. The nice thing about this too is that you can actually log everything. It's inactive right now, but you can use the CloudWatch logs to track all this, and then you can actually see what exactly is going on here. And then I also show here that you can use the cores, enable cores in here, and we don't have cores used in the API gateway, but you can, and I showed you in the Lambda code that we have that actually in there. Let's see, let's go right here. Here's the cores right here. So you can see here, and I even did some commenting in here so you can kind of see how this works, the configuration. We can allow all, which you could do, especially if you're going to have something on different websites. But since I just want to just on my website and that's it, and that prevents people from hijacking anything, you don't have to worry about that. And so this is what it sends to the browser. So if I go here, and let's say I paste in this right here. Okay, sorry, my echo crazy there. So anyway, put this in here. You can see right here, put this in there, and it gave us a session token, right? So that means we're good to go. This is from my Digital 6. And let's just say we go to google.com and we can put the same code in here. And then of course, what we're going to do is we're going to get an error because it's coming from google.com. And so this just shows you that the avatar wouldn't work on this site because the cores, the way it's set up here, is preventing it from going from here. So that's what's one of the advantages you can have. You can also, set up, you can throttle this. You can make it to where you can only have so many calls. You could set certain usage plans. You could set up a usage plan by doing this. You could do, certain times, certain usage, and so on. So you could have, these are all the different advantages of using API Gateway to manage. You could see how much usage you're getting. You can check in CloudWatch if there's any errors, and you could also make it to certain places can pull the APIs from it, and that's it. So there's all sorts of advantages here. I won't go into the details, but this I just wanted to show you this, the basic of having everything set up in here. And also, real quick, what I want to do is kind of show you just in detail kind of how this all works here too. So just how we have it in here. You've got your unique API, which we have an API that was given here, generated by the AWS. We have the service part of it, the region. Then we have the stage name, which we saw, which we all call production. And then you also have the resource path, right, which we talked about in here. And I have this in the YAML. I started all this in the CloudFormation template, which I'll put in my repo. But I had that template all set up and we just ran CloudFormation. Nowadays, that's kind of what I do. Is I do all my work in my VS Code or whatever you're using, set it up in there, and then I usually connect it to AWS, do a YAML do a CloudFormation template, send it all in, and it's so much easier to do than doing it manually and going up and setting this up yourself. And so now you can kind of look in here and see everything we have in here. And then I showed you all the logs, the way for metrics, what you can do in here. And then I showed you the stage and production and how all that worked and so on. Like I said, you can look in the CloudWatch, you can see request count, latency, you can see any kind of errors that go on in here. And then, of course, you could also set this up in Route 53. Okay, so that's all I have for the API gateway. Okay, so here, what I want to show you is what we, or I guess what issues I came across, and I just wanted to kind of put you in the troubleshooting. So if you ever come across it too. And the first one I had was the API URL. Since this is so new, it's kind of difficult to find what kind of URL to use. But basically, what you want is the start session. There's a lot of different I guess URLs out there in the HeyGen on what to use, but the start session is what you want to use. And so that we had problems with this, and we used the curl just to kind of make sure that we could find out what it was that how to use this. So biggest thing here is I just want to show you that this is the URL that works the best. Cores, got to make sure I forgot to use cores, and so of course it wasn't working right away. So once I remembered to use the cores, I added that into the Lambda function like I showed you. And once I got that in there, that was all set up. The microphone permission, I didn't really have any problems with it, but I just thought I'd throw it in there because most of the time the browser asks for that anyway. The biggest thing I mentioned, as I mentioned before, we had audio video sync issues. And so, the avatar's mouth movements did match the audio, especially at the very beginning. And even then it was a little quirky. So, and a lot, the audio starts before the video or vice versa. And we had a delayed response at the beginning. So not very professional, especially if you want to use this for your own business or you want to sell it to somebody. You want to make sure we had this done. So, as I showed you and I talked about the Lambda, we warmed it up first. So when you go to that page, it actually goes in there and sets it up. We had a preload metadata in the HTML that, for the video. And then we kind of had a 2-second sync delay is in place. That's why it's a little bit slower when it sets up. And then, we tested on different browsers. Seems like Chrome worked the best, but I also tried it on, Edge, and I even checked it on Brave too. So Brave worked out pretty well. Internet connection, which I didn't really have any issues with. And so that's really what I want to talk about. Lambda errors. We did have some Lambda errors, and of course, the nice thing about that is the HeyGen. We did have more issues with that. API rate limits. I didn't. That was pretty much fine. We didn't have any problems with that. But like I said, the Lambda errors. The having that the CloudWatch was great, and that probably saved me so much time working on that. So that's what it goes. I was trying Calendly just for that, and it wasn't. It was spelling it out differently, the URL. So I changed that. That's why I kind of had that in there. Scheduling, we didn't really work about there. So I wanted to show you that. And then in here, and this will be, I kind of came up with different ways you could do this instead of using it on AWS. So I put that in there. Here's kind of like the cost, right? And this is kind of messy, but at least you can see $0 to $1 the cost for Lambda versus some of these are, $5 to $20 and so on. Azure, you're probably looking at about the same cost if you like using Azure instead. Same with Google Cloud, because they're using serverless. But the other places that you can see in here, you can see how it can get pretty expensive. The bottom line is if you use AWS, great. And then here's some other ones here. Advanced options. You can use Next.js application, which is full featured in there. You can use all that. You can kind of go through here and see the pros and cons. You can do HTML, which I did do HTML, but it's inside the WordPress. You can see how that works. You can do a React component library, which I don't do much with, but it's definitely an option here. That kind of talks about it in the HeyGen libraries and stuff. You can find information on that, but that's kind of how it works. And then I just wanted to talk about how just tracking the usage, the logs, and everything else. So this is definitely one of the advantages of using AWS. Okay, so I hope you like this tutorial on setting up the live avatar from HeyGen on AWS. I just want to kind of go over once again the advantages. Having on AWS, it's enterprise grade. Cost is pretty big, from zero, depending if you have the free tier, the $0 to maybe $2 a month is better than a lot of the other options that are the $20. And we can also just talk about some of the use cases. Be great for training and onboarding. Use it to like interactive to train either employee or whatever that may be. Sales and marketing, like you see, like it is on my website, you can kind of talk about some of the services you provide, answer any kind of questions. You can also use it for customer support. If they have any kind of questions there, if you train it on what you would usually say. Healthcare and compliance, it's use it for patient intake, appointment scheduling, or ask any of those kind of questions. Financial services, you can have it ask anything about financial stuff that you have, investment guidance or anything like that. And then of course you saw that it had the multi-language support. So a lot of options in this. This is just the beginning, I think, of live avatars. We're going to be able to do so much more with this, and it's going to be crazy. This video is being made in December of 2025. Sure, in 2 or 3 months, probably going to be outdated, and there's going to be so much better. So anyway, pretty exciting stuff. I hope you liked it. And if you have any questions, let me know. Be sure to like the video and subscribe. If you have any questions, in the comments below. Thanks. Bye.